Don't do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I just wait.
Use right now for international webinars. The first one with another platform. Every time I'm so grateful to Sidblink, former Simbid, because they started with me doing this type of webinars. And right now we are going every time more international because we are speaking with Oliver from Brussels, but I'm based right now in Frankfurt, in Germany, with people joining from all over the world. No, I'm joking. Mainly from Italy. And right now, Oliver, it's just your time. Who you are, why you're here, what we are speaking about, everything like this, why Facebook is still so much buggy even after getting billions of money. Let us know everything about it, and then we will start very informal way to start in this case.
Very good. Thank you, Claudio. I have no idea why Facebook is the way it is. I have nothing to do with that. So my name is Oliver Geider. I'm the executive director of the European Crowdfunding Network, Eurocrowd, based in Brussels. We are an international network, or basically pan-European network for professional crowdfunding platforms. Crowdfunding is, reward-based, as you all know, investments and loans. And we started around 11 years ago, not to the day, but nearly to the day, set up a legal entity in Brussels and engaged with policymakers across Europe and Brussels, with supervisors and the industry and stakeholders. And we've been working to improve what crowdfunding is, try to explain policymakers why it could be good and why it could change the world, and what might need to be done to make it professional, together with our members, of course. And now, 11 years later, we've at least had 2 laws being changed or written to create a much better European framework. We had success on national level as well, and in every member state played out a bit different. So I think we're here to talk about that and what the future might be for
I'm
all
smiling.
the entrepreneurs that
Yeah,
use it.
you can see me smiling just because you are so. I will not say quiet, but you are so. You're not speaking. You're not telling the truth, the real truth. You're the person behind the new regulation in Europe.
Yeah, no.
You know everything about it. So after local laws, which were determining the rules, the engagements, and everything like that about crowdfunding, lending, and equity one, we started with a new regulation in Europe, which is then applied by regionals or to the single countries. Yeah. Based on everything like that. So, Oliver, we need to speak about it, and who better than you to do it? Who? No one. So let's start with it, and we need to understand just something like that, because lots of Italian platforms are asking the same question right now, and it is why do we need an international European common and shared regulation between all the actors in the same industry, and something for regulate everything in the crowdfunding market, which is called ECSP Regulation right now. So why?
Well, why? It's easy. If you say I'm responsible, then it's because I wanted it. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible. There were many people involved in this effort, and specifically on the policy side as well, but also within the industry. Why do we need this? We actually started in 2012 to outline the idea, and we didn't look at an individual platform in Italy or any other country. We said, what is the problem that we have as a European economy? And that is lack of access to finance, specifically for small businesses. Every small business. We looked at the statistics back then with like 24 million SMEs or companies registered in Europe, 20 million SMEs. And then we looked at the funding that is available for them. And, there's basically nothing or nothing formalized, or at the time there was very little. We came out of the banking crisis 2008. Some of you might remember this, right? There was a subordinated loan crisis or real estate market in the US, and it destroyed a lot of banking activity in Europe as well. So at the time and today still, if you're a company, where can you get money? If you're a small company, you can go to your bank, maybe you get a business loan. You may have to put up some collateral, which might be your house. That's not exciting. If you need money to grow, yes, I'm a small business, but I need 5 million euros now. Where can you go? Nowhere. The bank doesn't give you the money, right? There is nothing formal. So the next level is some government grants. In some countries, they work quite well. In others, not, but they're usually, aligned with certain things you need to do, long-term, procedures to get into it. It's not an easy way to grow a business with this. What else is there? Business angels, and we work closely with them, and we appreciate, what the sector does. But de facto, what is a business angel? You can't explain it. There's no definition of this. It's somebody who has a bit more money than you and is willing to invest in your business and may help you add value to your business, or may not, right? When we don't know. So some do, some don't. And so it becomes really unclear. And for an entrepreneur, it's a tough world to navigate. And then there's venture capital. And we all know venture capital invests in how many early stage companies a year? It's like a handful, right? It's a few thousand. It's nothing. And most entrepreneurs don't fall into the scope of what venture capital invests in. They have very clear investment targets agreed with their own investors in specific industries. They have to be high growth. They need to be outperforming expectations. Otherwise, there's no money. So for 99% of small business, it's no way of getting money. So you can't get a bank loan or only against collateral. And to get investment in equity, it's nearly impossible, or it's with somebody you have to identify, a person with money, a business angel, which is time-consuming, tough. So we thought, look at crowdfunding. It's the same thing, right? It's equity investment, or it's a loan. It's a financial structure we all know. But it's no longer one person you need to convince, or an investment committee of a venture capital fund that you need to convince, but that potentially doesn't know anything about the market you're in. It's potential customers, it's the public. It's like a stock exchange, right? So you have a larger market to address. And if you want to have a large market to address, then the largest market we have is all of Europe. Just think you're an entrepreneur and you're located in a small country. We have small countries in Europe that have just a few million inhabitants. You can't raise public money there. There's not enough people to invest. So if you only focus on national markets, you only have 5 countries where it really works well, or 6. So we said it has to be pan-European. It has to be cross-border. So we shared our ideas with the Commission that understood lack of finance at the time was dire, certainly for young companies. They understood that, the semi-formal markets like business angels and venture capital didn't really solve the needs of the majority of companies. And so they looked at it and, looked at the existing regulation and realized there is an opportunity to shape a law that could actually work in between venture capital and business angels and the banking side, and fill a hole that hasn't been addressed in the existing financial markets. This is why we're here, right? We solve a need for the European economy.
Yeah, and also looking at it from another perspective, it trying to let other countries, the big ones, like Italy, for example, to go cross borders, because we are so spoiled, trying every time selling into our country and not looking outside of it. We are so tied up with it. But for me, it's an opportunity just for doing international business and starting in a very light way. And then after it, you will collect, I call it as a smart money, because people interacted with your company, maybe investing their money via equity or lending way. After it, they can do something more, maybe provide you stakeholders, clients, collaborators, everything you need for your business. So that's a real starting point. It is just a leverage to do better business after it. And that's my 2 cents on the topic.
Of course. Look, I mean, totally. For some, it's not relevant, right? If you have a local business that operates in a region with regional product and regional customers in a specific language, maybe you don't care that much. I understand. It doesn't mean that somebody else isn't interested in your business, right? So there's no reason why, if you're an Italian company, producing something specifically Italian that is being sold maybe largely in Italy, why this shouldn't attract somebody from a different country, because maybe they have been to Italy, maybe they know your product. Crowdfunding would allow this. What is special about this cross-border issue is that this doesn't exist in other financial services, and not to the level that has been done with crowdfunding. But all is being solved. Taxation remains an issue. So if you do this, you still have to consider VAT issues and income tax, and the capital gains tax for investors. So it remains complicated, but it opens up opportunities for SMEs, for small companies, to expand their markets only on the funding level, to say, no, my product is interesting for other people as well in other countries. And this cross-border, this let's say pan-European vision, we all do it, right? I mean, you're using Skype, and other people buy on eBay or go to Amazon. I mean, this is all global, right? And all we want is European at this level. So I think this is absolutely fine for the platforms. You mentioned the platforms that say, well, but why do we need this? Sure. If you have a working model, if you have a regulation or oversight or whatever it is in your country that works, and it didn't work everywhere, then you might say, I don't need this, and I'm quite happy. And then the question is, how much does this market and your national, framework actually produce for the economy? Because the policymakers don't care about your platform, right? They don't care about one or two platforms. They care about the impact on the economy, and if it finances innovation and creates jobs. So if you have something that works for you, it may not have any impact on the overall economy. It's not relevant. If we have a harmonized law across Europe, the possibility to scale platforms maybe into 3 countries or 5 countries, and therefore more markets, and therefore, transferring more money between investors and entrepreneurs is much bigger. So the impact is bigger. So there's a clear reasoning why we should do this, because there's a hope that this market can scale. And we've seen first platforms doing this, embracing this. Everyone who runs a platform also knows that it's a small margin business, right? I mean, as a platform, you're not making a lot of money on every transaction. So you need to make many transactions, and ideally larger ones, in order to, let's say, make money as a platform, reinvest into future products, improve your services, and so on. So it's a business that needs to be scaled, right? We need bigger markets.
Yeah, we need a bigger market, like the American one, for example, or maybe from the Middle East or something like that, and acting like a single region, like a single country, could be a solution. So that's the main point, the starting point for the next question, because it could be how this affect my business, because I'm an entrepreneur and I want to raise capital for my business. How the regulation, the European regulation, affected my business, and very simple rules, because we can start saying, for example, you can raise 5 million per project per year, but maybe we can also share some ways to, I will not say overcome here or doing a workaround, but if you need more capital than only just 5 million, you can structure the operation in order to do it. So it's something like that. So that's the second starting point. What do you think about it?
Yeah, totally. Of course. Look, so I think the first thing we need to understand is that when we talk about raising capital, people didn't use to talk about loans. They talked about investments, equity. So this is covered. Both is covered by crowdfunding law. Both is covered with the same rules. So you're doing, when you go crowdfunding, you do a public offering, right? Yeah. going out onto a website and saying, this is my company, this is what I'm doing, here's my financials, do you want to invest in me? So this is a public transaction. It's very visible. So the amount of 5 million euros is an exemption in the European prospectus law. We have a prospectus law that until 2017 put a threshold of 100,000 euros for public transactions. So you had above 100,000 euros, if you wanted to make a public announcement about your fundraising efforts, you needed to have a so-called prospectus, which is a legal document which lawyers write for you, or accountants. It usually costs money, 20,000 euros, in some cases way more. But if you raise 100,000 euros, then 20,000 euros is a lot of money. So already back then, we worked with the Parliament and the Commission and the Council to increase the threshold. So the threshold was moved to 1 million euros and up to 8 million euros if member states wanted to do this. And some, like the Dutch or the Brits, moved to 8 million euros. Others didn't. So suddenly you could raise per year up to 1 million euros without having this prospectus that costs you a lot of money. With the ECSPR, this was moved to 5 million euros. So all you need to now publish is a 6-page document, which the crowdfunding platform will help you to deliver. It's like a mini business plan. And that is the public document that the regulator will look at, will say, okay, what is in there? This is where you will be liable if you lie. So you have to take care that it is correct information. Every proper business has this and can do this and safeguards, their interests. And with this, you can raise 5 million euros a year. You go to a venture capital fund, you get 5 million euros or 10 million euros, but not per year. Right? You have to work with this for 2 or 3 years. So here, in theory, you can raise 5 million euros a year. That's 50 million euros in 10 years. For many, many, many small businesses, that is way more than they need, way more that they can work with. But even for those that have higher capital requirements, this is not a bad solution, right? And if you see it as an add-on to other investments that you might have, or bank loans, then this becomes highly, highly attractive. It may not work on day one like this, but there is huge scope for any SME. That's one major advantage, right? No, complex legal costs to create some. I think my camera has frozen.
Yeah, just a bit.
But I will,
right now.
Yeah, don't worry. That happens sometimes.
Yeah, don't worry.
But I will continue and I will fix it. I hope. And so this is the one advantage, right? You can raise public money of up to 5 million euros per year. Now let's be realistic. Maybe that doesn't work. Yeah. What else is an advantage of this law? You had crowdfunding until basically last year when this fully kicked in. Different in every country, right? I mean, Germany, it worked its own way. In Italy, it worked its own way. Yeah. In Italy, you had equity that was, supervised by consort, but then you had other loan crowdfunding that wasn't regulated at all. So, and in France, it was yet different. And in Germany, again, you couldn't even do certain transactions. This new law basically shows you that you can look at crowdfunding platforms in any European country, and they work under the same rules.
Yeah.
Look, I'm afraid I have lost my camera.
No worry. You can try to disconnect and try to reconnect maybe, but
yes,
I can hear you perfectly. I know.
Yeah, but look, I will see if I can fix it.
Yeah, than a video, but it's not the best solution, the worst solution at all.
No worries.
Yeah.
So look, you now can go to any crowdfunding platform in Europe that is licensed under this regime.
Yeah.
And the initial requirements are the same. So you can compare them. You can compare fee structures. You can look at 2 or 3 Italian platforms and at a French one and maybe an Austrian one and say, and then you see that they offer better deal terms for you. So that doesn't mean yet that they will finance you, but you can go there. You can try. So this will create competition. This will bring down cost of capital for entrepreneurs because platforms will have to adjust their fee structures in order to remain competitive. That creates pressure on the market. Crowdfunding platforms will have to become competitive. will have to scale. Therefore, cross-border is important for them, so they get more transactions, make more money, because over time, the cost per transaction will be reduced. It's what a market does, right? So as an entrepreneur, you have more choice. You also have more choice as to where your money comes from. If you know what you mentioned is this idea of a cross-border transaction. One of our arguments when we talked to policy was like, let's think about solar energy, right? I mean, you can finance solar energy through crowdfunding. And in Italy, you have a lot of sun and you put solar energy onto your fields, onto your roof.
Yeah.
But if you live in Northern Europe, you may not have as much sun. Yeah? So why would you invest in solar energy in Finland? You would invest in Italy maybe, or in other areas where you have more, exposure to sun. In Norway, you would invest in water energy maybe, but solar maybe less, or wind energy. So you suddenly have the opportunity to pick technologies or pick, as an investor, areas that are interesting for you that you may not find in your member state where you live. And as a company, you suddenly have access to investors that may be very interested in your particular solution, but then within your member state where you live in that country, maybe that isn't such a big market. Yeah. So this can be really relevant if you have a company and a product or service that you want to bring into the market, but your market might be outside of your country, or it might be growing faster outside of your country. And that is what this law allows you as an entrepreneur. So look out for cheaper solutions, better services, platforms that are better. Look at the markets where you think the capital sits for your company, where your main markets are maybe in the future. Then you try to address these markets. You find a platform that can help you there, do this. It's a different way of fundraising.
Yeah. That's correct.
We are not yet. We are not yet there where we say, I have the free choice of everything. It's a market that is just growing, but that is a superb change in the way entrepreneurs can look at funding.
This is and also I have to give you some examples about. I have a client of mine who want to raise more than 5 million, and the total of funding is made by lending and equity investments per year per project. So he's looking for creating different branches for each country where they are going to operate. So in this way, they can raise for different projects technically more than 5 million in total, but just at up to 5 million per single country. So that's a way of organize this type of work, and maybe that's the real point of finding better services, finding better partners, creating a new market, a bigger one. Because when people told me, with the new regulation, some platforms in Italy didn't follow it. So right now we have less crowdfunding platforms, so it means a smaller market. And I was like, I don't think it's correct, because right now the European market is just one, so it's a bigger one. If you're looking just for Italian VATs, crowdfunding platforms, maybe they are less, lower, fewer. But if you look at the total number of platforms, now we have 3-4 times more than before. So it's a much way bigger market. We just need to wait some months, some weeks, maybe months, maybe years, just for waiting for let them being established in other countries, so operating in a very structured way, not only in their own original country, but even outside of it.
Look, I mean, this is mirrored by the crowdfunding market, the platforms themselves, which were national. Yeah, I mean, you're Italian, I understand this, and you speak Italian, and you live in, wherever, Milan, and you probably don't even travel to Sicily, 10 times in your lifetime unless you go there for holidays. You have no reason to. I mean, it's the same in every country, right? You have your center of life and the center of business. And this is the outset where people started. And so, of course, they see this as a loss. And it's not only in Italy, it's in most European countries, in all European countries, there is now less crowdfunding platforms than there were before. we see differences in countries. Some really adjusted well and have a lot of platforms with licenses compared to other member states. But in all member states, platforms have given up. As an entrepreneur that looks for money, the question is not, oh, is this now, did I lose out because there's less platforms? The question is there now a better choice? There's fewer but better service providers. Because the reason that the other ones didn't go for the license maybe is because they were not professional. They couldn't finance a professional, structure that is compliant with law. And then you should take the conclusion maybe that it's good that you can't go there anymore because that may not have ended up well. It's difficult to understand that. It's a hard argument. I understand this as well.
No, that's correct.
But it's a market that changes, and this is where we are right now. And from now, it hopefully grows and it scales. And the question is, will there be 5 platforms in 10 years that are all as big as Amazon? Will there be 100 platforms? Right now we have 140, or even more. Will there be niches that carve themselves out that are specifically Italian? Or will this be niches that are specifically sector focused? Only real estate, only startups in the service area. That is what we will need to see. And that is where I think the challenge for the platforms lies, is to innovate their business model into a new reality that they don't know yet what is there. And so looking at the platforms that embrace this and go cross-border, that's where they have to, fight. And this is where I think entrepreneurs, again, can take an advantage for themselves, right? Because platforms will come into Italy because they want to open a new market. So there will be more choice very soon. It's already happening right now, right? I mean, there will be big platforms within Italy within the next month or so doing their first deals, and then it rolls from there. Yeah, so I think this is really, really an interesting time.
Yeah, and this is because my next and last question was about new potential horizons for crowdfunding market, and it is not just related with actors into it, but it's also related with financial operations that we will be allowed to do in the future. I'm thinking about tokenization, for example. So you can create any type of debt operation listed on a crowdfunding platform and promoted in every country in Europe, maybe something like just to do it in a very simple way. And right now you're not allowed to do it. So thinking about it in a very simple and light way, what do you think about next horizons? I would say next perspective, next opportunities that we could get with this new regulation and this new evolving situation that we are facing.
Yes, I think this is indeed one aspect that many that are established in the market are waiting for or looking at. It goes beyond just this. I mean, so what we have with crowdfunding is plain vanilla loans and securities, right? Investment type of structures. What is new about crowdfunding is the social aspect, that you can now reach out to individuals, even in different member states, and offer them an investment. That was only possible on the stock exchange prior. So, but that we have. This is the market we are now. This is where we are now growing in. At the same time, there's a huge effort by the European policymakers to innovate European capital markets, to follow what crowdfunding already does with the pan-European approach. We have a regulation on crypto assets that is going to, be implemented and applicable very soon, which leaves out tradable securities. So the typical equity investments and so are not covered by this, but it allows to tokenize assets. And so there is already, thoughts about how this can be, say, merged and what the benefits will be. Yeah? We need to see this, but we have already seen prior and now platforms that operate on the blockchain do tokenize transactions in the back office, so they're ready, set to exploit these opportunities. And we know that with this crypto asset regulation, there will be other forms of, let's say, crowdfunding-like transactions. They will be legal, with crypto assets. That will be possible. So the scope of the market will become bigger. So that is something that happens. We have at the same time the regulation for alternative fund managers has been adjusted, because that has suffered from the same things than every other capital market. It's national, it's a regulation, it's not a regulation, it's a directive, so that there's interpretations by member states that often make it very difficult to operate in Italy and in France with the same license and the same business model. This is what has been taken out of crowdfunding, because we have a fully harmonized law, apart from some aspects, but the other areas are moving that direction. So IFM funds can, for example, co-invest in crowdfunding platforms. Crowdfunding platforms on the loan side can manage IFM funds to have institutional investors co-invest on crowdfunding. This hasn't happened yet in large scale. We will see how this develops. There is a huge opportunity here as well to have far more capital than retail investors today are willing to provide enter the market. So co-financing of larger transactions or more frequent transactions with funds could be something that is also to be exploited. We have aspects of the secondary market, which within ECSP are very limited. It's basically a bulletin board where you write, I have something to sell, and somebody can say, I want to buy it. With the crypto asset regulation and also the DAT pilot regime, there will be potentially already opportunities much sooner to move this into tokenized transactions as a secondary market. It depends on the interpretations we will have in, when the law is actually being implemented, the crypto asset law, but be sure this will be tried very quickly. We have a secondary market regulation, which may be reviewed at some point if there is a big demand. So if you look at crowdfunding today, where we just have a new law, and I look at the next 5 or 10 years, yes, I think crowdfunding will come under competition with crypto asset platforms. I think there will be immersion between certain business models and approaches, but also with other financial services. So we should see an upscaling of crowdfunding platforms, and we should so potentially see downscaling of other service providers, as we already see in some countries where banks operate crowdfunding platforms. We have it in France, we have it in Belgium, we have them in other countries as well, smaller examples. So this is something that will happen for sure. We don't know today what the outcome is, but as long as the market grows and competes, it should offer more opportunities at lower prices to entrepreneurs. So that is why entrepreneurs should really watch the space and look forward for more flexible abilities to get funding, cheaper ways, more competition also to business angels or venture capitalists, or aligning it and raising a round with a venture capital, but adding some crowdfunding to it, which opens completely new opportunities. And that also has happened in the past, but it should now happen much more. So I think the next 5 to 10 years will be about establishing a really vibrant market that has scaled, and it's exploiting all these opportunities around crypto, around digitalization, the usability of platforms and so on. That this will happen in the next 10 years.
And then let's see. So, Oliver, I use all your time and all your energies that you have for spreading the word of crowdfunding. I think the same like you. So it means for me waiting for new horizons, because right now we are still at the beginning of this market, but acting like a single country will be much way better than acting like single countries there with different cross borders problems and thinking stuff like this. So I have to thank you for this type of interview, and also we'll ask you again in the future just for writing an article all together and speaking about it even into a podcast, and then let's see, maybe also offline events. We have a lot of ways to communicate about it. So Oliver, thank you again for your time, but you have the last chance to say goodbye to everyone, even if your webcam is freezed, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, Claudio, thank you very much. Sorry for the frozen webcam. That doesn't have as much energy today as I have. I think it's an exciting time, and for everyone who's just now switching on to crowdfunding, even though it may have been around for a long time, look at it and compare and follow it. I'm sure this will be a highly interesting space over the next 2 to 3 years already that will make big waves. And so thank you, Claudio, for the opportunity to reach out to your listeners. And I see you the latest in Brussels when you're coming up to Brussels, or in September when we run our event.
September and May, double
There
appointment. Oh, come on, double Brussels meeting there. So
very good.
Thank you again, Oliver. And I have just to announce the next webinar will be with Green. And Green is another project because it's a turbo story, a success story, because Green raised more than $500,000 with equity crowdfunding, and more campaigns are coming. So we are hosting Sergio, and Sergio will explain others how to do it in the best way, because we started just with, hello, this is my logo, and I need to raise some million. Okay. Wow, we can. Yeah. So let's do it. And another day at work. Let's do this again. And we did it. And we are still growing with Green, and we will speak about it. So see you next time in 2 weeks, even every time on Friday morning. And Oliver, thank you again for your time, and thank you for your effort. And so see you next time in Brussels, or maybe Berlin, or maybe Milan, And I told Berlin just because a piece of my heart is still there.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Oliver. And so see you next time.